Hi, it's Shayla. This is my clinical reflection. I'm gonna start with my strengths. One of my strengths was asking questions and clarifications on things that I didn't understand. I was very eager to learn and get experience in OB nursing because this is what I want to do in my future, and so I was very enthusiastic and excited about it. Um, this is more so relevant on my last day. We had a patient that was in labor on monitor, and we had some downtime, and my nurse was charting on some strips, and I noticed that I really wasn't understanding a lot of the stuff that she was charting, and so I kind of asked her why she would chart certain things a certain way, and she gave me a full lesson on fetal monitoring and how to chart and textbook examples of each thing, and I thought it was so awesome, and it really benefited me because now I'm going to carry that with me throughout my future in hopefully OB nursing. But I think for future clinical and nursing, wherever I end up, I think it's so important to always ask questions and clarification on things you don't understand, because without that, you're not going to learn. So I think that was one of my strengths this time around, and I'm hoping to continue to carry that through nursing school into my future as a nurse. Another one of my strengths was being open to any teaching or constructive criticism that my preceptors had for me. I know that being perfect is not expected, but knowing I didn't say something right or do something right wasn't the best feeling for me, and I wanted to learn from that. And so I was really open to learning what I could have done better with my nurses, and I think that's a really big strength and important to have in my future as a nurse and in future clinical experiences, just because it's so important to know how to do things right and know what you're doing wrong, so you can learn from it and do better in the future. This was especially important during my first catheter on a female patient in this rotation. My nurse was right by me the whole time and instructed me on what to do next, and she prevented me from skipping anything or doing anything wrong, just by putting little reminders in my head saying, "Oh, are you sure you want to do that right now? I think that's next." And so that was really helpful and helped me gain confidence in myself, and now I know what to do in the future for catheters. And so it's so relevant for my future as a nurse to just be open to that criticism. And I think that this is a great strength that I have right now that I can carry over to my next clinical rotation and my future as a nurse. And so my weaknesses, I noticed 2 weaknesses that were present in this rotation that seemed to be kind of an ongoing presence in my clinicals. And so one of them being the lack of connections with other members on the healthcare team. And I think this is just because I'm nervous and a quiet person, and so it kind of takes me a minute to open up. And so in the future, I said, Shayla, will make connections and establish solid communications with at least 2 other members of the relevant healthcare team during the next clinical rotation for all of my patients. So that was my start goal for this, and I think it's so relevant just because I want to be able to make connections with the people on the team so that I can communicate with them better and that they know who I am and why I'm there. And I think this is important in my future as a nurse, just because you're going to have to make connections with everybody on the healthcare team and know who they are and who you're working with. So I think that's so important. So my plan of action that I did to help me meet my SMART goals I plan to step out of my comfort zone, introduce myself to members of the team when I can, and keep an open line of communication with other team members when I can. So I think just in general, being more open to talking with other members of the team and all of that, and I think that's going to be really helpful in my next rotation, and hopefully I can accomplish that goal. Another identified weakness is being hesitant to jump in on skill opportunities and new learning opportunities. And I think it's just because I was nervous, and this was also present in my last clinical rotations. It's just, I think what I need to work on is just being more open to just jumping into it and doing it, because I'm not going to learn if I don't try it. So in my SMART goal, I said Shayla, will be open to take on at least 3 learning or skill opportunities presented to me during my next clinical rotation. And my plan of action is to let the preceptor know that I am comfortable taking on any new skill or learning opportunity I can, and if my preceptor offers to let me do something, I take advantage of it and do it. So those are my goals and plans of action. So I'm hoping those weaknesses can not be there next rotation, and I can learn from that. So my lessons learned in this rotation, I learned so many new things about OB nursing, and I also learned a lot that I could carry over into my next clinical rotations and my career as a nurse. And one of the most important things for me was just communication is everything, and that was like the biggest lesson I learned. It includes communication with other nurses, other providers, and especially with the patient. Being in the hospital, regardless of what unit you're on, is a scary or exciting or nerve-wracking thing for some people, and so just to know what's going on, what procedures you're doing, what it's going to look like, what they may feel, is all important to to any area of nursing. And so I think this is going to be a great lesson I can carry over into all fields of nursing and in my clinical rotations. I want to be able to have that open line of communication with my patients and providers and other nurses so that we can make the best plan of care for our patients. And it's a big lesson I plan to carry with me throughout the rest of my time in nursing school and my future as a nurse. And another lesson was to continuously check on my patients. And this is so relevant because monitors don't show everything regardless of what area the patient is in. So I think it's relevant to not only OB but to other areas. It's important to look at the patient face to face and ask them how they're physically feeling, and you can tell by just looking at them how they're doing compared to just looking at them on a monitor. So granted, some patients may not want to be checked up on as often or may need to be checked up on more. But I think it's just so important to know how your patient is feeling and what they're doing, and how they're doing physically. So that's a big lesson for me to carry over, is to just always check on my patients and ask how they're doing. And it's a lesson I plan to carry in my future clinicals and my future as a nurse, whatever unit I end up on. So, yeah.